makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of talking with Kosnjek. From facing challenges as a single mother of 5, to become an influential business leader and founder of Restaurant Tactics and Dominating Life, Crystal's story is one of resilience and empowerment. Join me as I uncover the inspiring chapters of her life and gain insights into how she's paving the way for others to conquer obstacles and achieve their dreams. Good morning, Crystal. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm looking forward to learning more about your work, your education. Oh my goodness, your background is deep. So can you take us back to the early days and share how you navigated the challenges of being a single mom of 5 while you are going to school?
I did go to school early on. I was actually in the middle of my divorce. I have just a rough start to life in general. The first early stages was fine, and then around 10, my parents split up. Found out my dad wasn't my dad, and then
Lord.
It really put me in a really bad depression because it just felt like everything was a lie, and I was like 9-10 years old, so you just don't understand at that age. And not that my parents, meant to do that. It's just that's the side effect of having kids and going through that, especially when they're at that age where they can start understanding things a little bit better. So it's just been a really bumpy start in my life in general. And then I ended up getting married and things were fine. And then, shortly after the marriage, my husband at the time, he became very controlling, belittling, and it started with first verbal abuse, and they tear you down and kind of detach you from your family. He started talking against my family and how they didn't like me, and really try to get me to distance that. And then then the
That's
physical
the
abuse.
worst.
Yeah, the physical abuse started, sexual abuse. It was pretty bad. It really took a toll on me. I lost myself, and it took my uncle coming over to visit and helping me fix something in the trailer that I lived in at the time. We had really bad plumbing issues, and he kept trying to come over and help me because I was struggling, trying to do this. My husband didn't quit working, couldn't hold a job anymore, so I had to figure it all out. And he was sucking more money out of me than helping me, and it was just toxic, extreme toxic. Like, I didn't know, but you don't know what's happening because it happens over time. And my uncle came up to me and he's like, Crystal, I miss that bubbly, happy Crystal that I used to know. I don't know where she went. And that's when I started to take a really hard look at life and what's happened to me. And because I just kind of got lost in it. You go into a fight or flight survival mode. Like, you're just trying to make it another day because you don't want to live this life. And people are like, oh, you could just leave. Well, I tried. He followed me. He caused problems, and he got angry. And that's how battered women that are in abusive relationships, they try, but they really exert their control and dominance. They're stronger than you. Like, it's really hard to just fight that, and then you're tired. So just to continue on. And then I was going to college at the same time, and he would come in and, throw my books across like, I was laying on my bed reading. He grabbed my textbook and just threw it across the room. He says, no, we're not doing that. You're not doing this. And just would take it away, and just a lot of abuse. It's pretty
He
dark.
didn't want you. It seems like he didn't want you to get ahead at all. He just wanted you to stay where you are, and then he can continue the abuse.
Yes. And one day, my daughter came up and told me how he locked her in a closet and banged her head into a wall. And when that happened, a whole different side of me, amount of strength came out. It's like a mama bear popped out, and I got aggressive back. I fought back, and because I just had enough, and you don't hurt my kids. And so it got pretty ugly. And then I ended up in the hospital He'd almost killed me. And so I started working with advocates because I'd gotten a protection order. But then he came back and apologized with roses, and I was young and stupid. And I was like, oh, okay, he's trying, because I'd always have that vulnerability of seeing the good in people. It can backfire, but you just have to be smarter with it. It's not a bad thing. You just have to be wise. And so I
True.
took it back and dropped the protection order. Well, then things got really ugly. And when I went to go get another one, the judge wouldn't grant it to me. So I had to work with advocates to get out of that. And it's just, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me because it showed me the amount of strength I have. And that's what propels me to keep going. Because what is the other option, to just surrender and do that? No, I didn't. I'm not here to do that. So I just really found the strength inside. And if there's a will, there's a way. I had explored different avenues. I tried to go to shelters and all the 6 surrounding states. There was a 6-month at least waiting list because at the time I had 4 kids.
Wow.
When I was trying to leave, they're like, we don't have room for all 5 of you. So I had to go on a wait list, and because I had such a large family, I couldn't just go to my friend's house and crash there. Like, it wasn't so easy just to get away. And then when I went to my mom's, he came and started causing problems. And my mom's like, well, you can't really stay here, because of this, and kind of just pushed me away and out of the house, which I understand. Like, I don't want to impose this on anybody else. I'm just trying to figure it out. And when I went to the hospital and stayed there for a week, and they gave me some medicine for PTSD, which made me black out on my kitchen floor once. I don't recommend. I just don't like the pharmaceuticals, but I try to go all natural. But it was a really long battle. I spent I would say 2 to 3 years trying to fight my way out. And I finally, through the hospital and the staff there, in Lutheran Family Services, they helped me get an attorney for free, so I could get divorced because in the state of Nebraska, there are marriage laws and divorce laws and stuff, and so I had to get an attorney because there's kids involved, and trying to find the money to hire an attorney to go through the divorce. It was just like every which way. Like, it seemed like it was, wasn't an option. So I kept digging because I was that desperate to get out of there, and I want to try to help women and other people that struggle just with anything. It's all mindset. Like, you have to want it bad enough, and you're going to have battle wounds and scars, but that skin strengthens when it heals. It just builds your character. And that's kind of what I want to do, is help people find those, because I've been through it so many times in my life, and you have to have that right mindset.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. Sometimes we think that we had it hard until we listen to someone else's story, we realize that others, women out there, are suffering even more than we think we are suffering.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not always greener on the other side. And some people have been through some stuff, just it's rough, but it's the mindset. I feel like, we just got to keep looking at the good and look forward. Because if you look back, there's nothing there. It's gone.
because certain relationships, you just can't fix them. I know I heard that a lot. Well, I can fix him.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help him fix himself. But you can't really. My grandpa used to tell me, when you have a tree, it's going up and it's already crooked, you cannot fix that tree. It's already too old for you to fix it. And I think it's the same for humans. Once you get older, it's harder for anyone to change the way you are, especially if you've been like that your entire life.
Yeah, and I'm still healing from it. It's not. It did some damage, but I want to do that. And when I educate and help people, it helps me to heal myself. When you help others, you get that back, and it really helps me out. And that's why I want to help people. It just brings me joy to see that, and that we can work together, because I didn't have much support. And my kids demanded a lot of attention. Plus, I had to figure out how to make enough money. Now I have my own house. It's funny, the day my ex, he ended up I finally got my protection order, and as he was leaving, because it was really weird, because I couldn't be there when they served him with the protection order with my kids, because he had custody of my kids. And at the time when I was in the hospital, so the day I got released from the hospital, I went to the courthouse and got the protection order. And then they were going to go serve him with it. And I had to be 2-3 blocks down the street from him, and I had to have my mom come and be at my house because if no one was there to be there when they took him off the premises and the kids were left alone, then they would have had to take the kids into
Yes.
protective care. Yeah. And so I had to like plan and coordinate this all. And so when they had him detained, I was allowed to come up to the property, and he yelled at me and he said, "You'll be back. You can't do this without me." And, and no man's going to want you with 4 kids. And I was thinking, I don't know if I want to do this again after all of this. I still, I haven't really pursued relationships. I'm just trying to do me for once, and put myself up first with my kids, of course. But really, I don't care for relationships. I need to work and heal on myself. I don't have that to give out right now. I want to chase my dreams. I had to put my life on hold because of him for so long, and had to rebuild my credits. My credit was non-existent. I had so much debt. Now I bought my first house, and I'm doing just fine without him. And it's kind of funny because I think about that once in a while, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm doing it all by myself. I really don't, and I don't care about a relationship like that. I have my kids, and my kids are taken care of, and I'm providing them with the best life. And it's a beautiful home. It's got a pool, and I'm doing that all on my income. I don't get child support from him or anything. So it's, because he's a deadbeat. So there's a court order in the divorce. When the divorce got final, he didn't even show up. he he never showed up. So I pretty much got, what I wanted. And then he only has to pay like $200 to $300 a month so it's like $30 or so. I can't remember.
For 4 kids?
For 4 kids.
$200-$300?
Yeah. So
this is a joke, right?
Right. So, but yeah, and it's just been, I had dated someone else afterwards, and I just didn't work out. I'm like, I'm not ready to do this. And I'm still not, but that's okay. Like, I don't care about that. I like having my bed to myself and my cat, but, it's nice, but people have got to understand that, yeah, life will throw you curveballs. And if you choose to wear like a dark lens, you can't complain that the world's ugly, or it's dull. Change your lens off and try to open your perspective, because I could have chose a different path. I could have sit there and let him steal my soul. So, slowly,
Yeah.
because that's what was happening. And I didn't realize it because it just, over time it happens. And like, there's been so many times that we had gotten into physical altercations, and you get tired of dealing with it. It's mentally draining. They feed off that. And you gotta just hold on, and seek help. And that's why I want to be there, is just to put that word out there for somebody that might hear it. Hopefully it resonates with at least one person that's in that situation, because I've been through it. I can help. I know I can, but I've also been able to help a lot of other people through challenging situations, and just open their eyes up to the positive possibilities and solutions out there. And you just have to explore, but you have to want it bad enough to do the work behind it. It's not always an easy grind, but it's worth it. It's paid off, and I've provided a nice home for my family, and we try to do things. We just took a 10-day vacation in Colorado, and giving them those life experiences, because that's what matters the most, and show them how beautiful everything is.
Exactly. But also, one thing that's very fascinating is the fact that you were in a very bad marriage, and you went through a divorce, raising 4 kids, and then you still find time to finish your school. So
Yep.
now, could you share some of the strategies you use to juggle the demands of college and also being a parent?
It's just, my grandma taught me, if you want to monitor and make the most of everything you've got to take accountability for it, or take an account of everything. So with money, which was the situation, because I was trying to get more of it when I was growing up in my teens, I'm like, how do I get this money thing everyone's talking about? Like, what do I do with it? And I was struggling with it at first, balancing and um, keeping track of all my expenses, and she's like, if you want to know where it's all going and you want to get more money, find out where you're spending it. and you have to write down every penny. Don't think it's just because it's a couple cents that it matter, that doesn't matter, because if you have a lot of those little times of little cents that's coming out, it adds up a lot faster than you think it does. So she says, just record everything I spend, save all my receipts, and then, write them down and categorize it. And you know exactly where your money's going. And that's pretty much the same with my time and that my energy. If you think about energy, because it is a limited source, it's never created or destroyed. It just transfers. So what are you putting your energy into? And how much energy is the goal that you're wanting give you back? It's a return on your investment with energy. If you look at it as that, you start realizing that, because you only have so much time too. You don't know how much, but there's only 24 hours in a day. You can't expand on that.
Yes.
Time is there that we live by. So like and everyone has an expiration date. You just don't know when it's going to be. So when you start looking at it and changing that perspective and changing those lenses, and you're like, okay, how do I get more time and energy? You just got to figure it out. So and then being accountable and being honest with yourself. I've learned that I'm the only person I've got. If I'm going to lie to myself and cheat myself, like I'm just not doing myself any justice. So I really started taking and focusing on that and just really shifting my mindset. Because when you have your mind is solid and it's in alignment with what your goal is, everything just kind of works out purpose. It just kind of seems to work itself out. There might be bumps along the way to help you better manage your time. But it's just finding that purpose and that drive and that management. And it takes a lot of drive, discipline, and determination. That's the 3 Ds I live by: drive, determination, and yeah, I live by that mindset. I really do my best to just find that solution and find the ways to make it work if I want it bad enough. And if I don't feel driven to do it, then it's probably not the right thing. And so just always keeping track of that and just being mindful about it, and make sure you take time to relax, because we all want to, but sometimes you don't plan that. So it's just really planning and prioritizing. And, like I would go when I was going to school and I was working full time and then dealing with my husband, who was just constantly interrupting. I was like, well, it's not that I couldn't do it. And I did take time off college. It took me about 3.5 years to do a 2-year education. But I was like, I'm not going to, the thing is that I get it done. It doesn't matter how long it takes. So I would take a quarter off here and there. And I had started it in 2009, I would say. And I would take pauses, and because maternity leave and everything else as that. And I would maybe go back to work for a little bit and just work through those kinks. But I would go to work early when I was working and going to school. And I would go to work at 2 hours early, and I would sit at a booth, and because I worked at Pizza Hut, and I would just sit there and do my homework and just focus. I took away all my distractions because I knew that was what was holding me back. And I found a solution. I just went to work and did my homework. And then on my breaks at work, I pulled out my book. I would find, what can I do in 15 minutes? Can I read like 5 more pages? Because it would help. I would stand at my kitchen counter, and because I was really tired, and I would stand up and read with a cup of coffee or an energy drink of some sort, and would sit there and stand up, because if I sat down because I was that exhausted, I would fall asleep. I ended up falling asleep on the counter though, that one of the times, because I was like, sleep will win always. So I finally just crashed. I just was like, my body was like, enough. But you'll find a way to make it work. And it was important that I really understood the material. And I ended up graduating with a 3.8 GPA from community college in business management. And I was also part of a sorority, Phi Theta Kappa. So.
And I know that you, like you just say, you were a graduate with honor, and also you were part of sorority. What advice do you have for our listeners who might be facing similar challenges while pursuing an education or career goals?
Well, you got to have your whys, and you need to understand why you're wanting to do it. I decided to go to school to become a, business, because everything's a business. Everything in life like operates that way. You have the economy and everything else. So I founded a degree that can be versatile, because my goal for doing that is because I knew I had to make so much money to provide for my family. And and that was my purpose and my drivenness, because I wanted to have a house. I didn't want to live in an apartment or a trailer. I lived in a trailer for the longest time. Then I sold it and used that towards my down payment on my house. So you just got to take some personal finance classes and just know what you're up against. Get a coach. Coaches will help you guide through that if you need to. I know I offer services. I can work with you if financing is an issue. We can do a couple free sessions at least for starters for everybody. But then after that, we can work on that. But that's going to help guide you. But just knowing what you want to do and set your goal and work backwards. So like I wanted to buy a house. I determined how much money I would need a month, and then you have to times that by 3, because you have to make, like, the bank won't do that. So you just have to do a lot of research and understanding how it works and figure it out. And, don't be afraid to reach out to the community to get help. I was on food stamp, and you had to get government assistance at first, and then I started making enough money, because I'm very dependent or independent, and I don't like to be dependent on other people, because one, if you don't have anybody, it's hard to do that anyway. So I had to figure out how to do it on my own, and just find solutions to make it work. What's the problem? What are solutions? And open the amount of solutions, and have an open mindset to anything. And if you believe in it and just trust that it will work out, and sometimes you can't see, it's so cloudy and foggy, where you're trying to go, you just got to try something, or at least educate yourself if you don't know what to do. But if you are trying to educate yourself and balance, and getting out of everything, is just really shifting your mindset. I can't stress that enough, because if your mind's not great, it's hard. If you're in a depressed state, you can't see that far ahead. So you have to take those baby steps and just work on gauging how you feel as signals as to what you want to do. Just try to find things that do good to help push you forward, and aim for that, and just keep doing that. And you're going to have to keep shifting it, shifting that focus. And sometimes, you have to dabble. I've attempted like 10 businesses throughout the course of my life, and nothing just resonated well with me enough to pursue it and stick it through when it got rough. So you just have to find your whys and go 7 layers deep as to why you want to do it, because then you'll find it. If you want something bad enough, like we have no problem, going and standing in long lines to get into a concert that we want to go to. I mean, we will do things, and find ways to make it work if it's something you really want to go, or if you really want that designer handbag, you'll find ways to save up your money and cut spending so you get that. So it's the same concept. Is you have to find something that you want bad enough. And if you don't, that's okay. Just try to work on that mental awareness and that self-awareness, your self-talk, because if you beat down on yourself, you're not going to propel you forward. You're not, finding that purpose and reason, and learn how to take time for yourself and pause when you need to, and just really just take care of yourself and your mindset, and try to be open-minded about everything and what you put out, treat things as how you would want to be treated. And it's just your basic values that I feel like a lot of people kind of lose sight of once in a while. You try to just get on, work to survive, and so you can pay your bills, and we lose sight of those things. So just, taking time to yourself and just really pondering what it is that you want to do, why you want to do it. And then you just remember that when you're struggling and whatnot. And sometimes it can shift, and that's fine, but you just got to go to what feels better and just use that as your guide.
But also that you become you manage a restaurant, and now you're starting your own restaurant. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I'm not starting I'm opening a restaurant for Chipotle, but it's not my own restaurant.
Okay.
And I've done that, and I was going to do, and this is one of those examples, like I was going to do restaurant consulting, but I don't know if that's where my biggest passion's at, because unfortunately there tends to be a lot of ego in some of these smaller restaurants, and they just don't want to grow. They're just harder market to get into in general, just doing that. And I just don't know if that's what I want to invest my time and energy into, because I don't know if I want to deal with the headache just in running some of the restaurants like that, but and working alongside with people. But what I want to do is just, I feel like it's more meaningful and impactful if I develop leaders within the restaurants and have them give them some management training type courses that people can take if they're in the industry, and offering that consulting as well with them. One-on-one, instead of doing it for restaurants, but it's going to have a restaurant focus because I have 20 years in running restaurants or restaurant experience, and about 18 years running them. And it's rewarding. I love it. I love the fast pace. I love working with people. Food brings people together. So I love seeing that in birthday parties, and, that people want to come and have that special moment at that restaurant. I don't know. I love how it brings people together. But it is a tough industry. It's not for the faint-hearted.
It is. But also you wrote a book, 12 Laws to Making Life Your... We both all know the rest of it. So has had been a powerful impact on many. So what inspired you to share your experiences and insight through this book? And what do you hope readers will take away from it?
I wrote it because, well, all my friends ask me how I do what I do. Like, I mean it, like, it's just insane. Like, they're like, I can barely handle one kid. You've got all these by yourself, and I'm married, and I have a spouse that helps me. Like, and we have 1 or 2 kids, and we struggle. And how are you doing it by yourself with like twice as many children? And people kept asking me, just how do I do it? What do I do? And I've been going through this journey of, I watch a lot of YouTube. I educate. I love to read. I need a separate room at this point just for my books, and have a mini library in my house, because there's books in every room and I'm running out of space to put them all. But I love to read and educate myself. I like to understand the way things work, because how can you love and appreciate something if you don't know how it works, how it functions? And people claim to love themselves or love that, but do you understand how all the organisms in your organs in your body work together through organisms and sending signals to balance your body and your health? Like, do people take that into consideration all the time? I find the human body very fascinating. I actually was going to pursue to become a doctor and right out of high school. Well, first it was the Air Force, and then it was going to become a doctor. And I got in a car accident when I was 19, and I have ruptured discs in my lower back. And they just recommended that I don't stay in that profession, that it's going to take a toll on my back. And I'm going to have a lot of complications when I'm older and I start aging. And so I was like, okay, well, then I stuck with the management side of things, because at that time I was doing the restaurant management.
But you also have a second book coming up, which is called Fire Up 3, right?
Yes, it's called Fire Up 3. It is a co-authored book, and it's women coming together to share their stories. And all the proceeds for the book are being donated. We're going to vote on a charity once we're done writing, where we're going to have those proceeds go to, and hopefully to help empower women that need that. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of supports that you're going to get, and a lot of insight to help you through challenges, and you're going to have different authors in there. So and you can check out their first 2 books that are already out, and then go from there.
And where can they get access to your first book, which is the 12 Laws to Making Life Your...
That is on Amazon, or it is on my website, Kosnjek.com. And so my last name is spelled Kosnjek. It looks like Kosnjek, but it's Kosnjek.com or on Amazon.
So now your new businesses, Restaurant Fantastic and Dominating Life, so empower both businesses and individuals. How do you approach creating solutions for struggle restaurants? And how do you guide individuals in overcoming self-limiting beliefs?
So you want to, I like to kind of point out like any limiting beliefs, because you have to develop an awareness. And I don't do it to point out the negative that you're doing. I don't like to do that, but at the same time, like you've got to do that. So I try to like reshift that through just examples, through communications and building those connections. And so I would do that and come in, and if it depends if it's in the restaurant setting, well, I'm shifting that restaurant tactics over to like the leadership design or development. And so I really want to strengthen the leaders, because it's the leaders that make or break the restaurant. And if you don't have good leaders in this restaurant, then everything else underneath will eventually cave out.
True.
So you have to really strengthen that. So that's where I shifted that key focus to developing and training and understanding their point of view in a restaurant setting, because that's just where it's at. And there's a lot that you have to keep in track of, especially depending on like if it's a full dine-in or whatever. You have the lobby. There's so many different aspects that you have to monitor and juggle. So teaching that time management, showing them where they can improve their time at, are we doing this at the wrong time? Are we doing this at the right time? What are you working on? And just kind of build on that if it's trying to, whatever they need to do, so that way they can develop their team underneath them. And just kind of, you got to look at it. It depends on what the problem is. There's a lot of, because it's so complex, it's just takes time to delve into that and figuring out what's causing first finding the problem, then finding a solution to that problem.
And I think that finding the solution is the hardest part of it, because sometimes people overthinking, or they let the emotions take over to actually be able to put together a solution.
And right. So then that goes into like preventative maintenance too. So sometimes if you have a problem, well, you've got to figure out so you got to keep going deeper. So if you can't find the root of the problem, you want to go 7 layers deep and figure out what's causing that problem, get to the root cause of that, because then that's when you find the solution to the problem. But you just got to dig deep, or, look at the data, what the data is telling you, like, especially when it comes to like, do you have a lot of turnover in your store? Do you have a lot of people calling out? There's certain things that, you want to monitor and research. So delving deep into the operations to figure out where that root cause is coming from, and then working towards a solution. And when you do that, it will make it a lot easier to get to the root cause of it, but also putting systems in place to prevent that from happening further, educating yourself. It just really depends, but you got to like trying to find a permanent solution, because there's so much happening at a restaurant. You have to be fast paced, and sometimes when it rains, it pours. So you have to put out 4 fires. But the thing is to prevent the fires to begin with, so we got to find out what's causing that and then create that permanent solution.
But one thing that talking to you for the past few minutes, one thing I realized that your journey is one of determination and also self-belief. So with that, let's say if we're looking forward, what are your goals for both your personal journey and your mission to empower others?
My goals to empower others, well, is one of my big goals, and it's going to take some time. I gotta do some more research on this. But I have a spa in mind where it's a mental wellness spa, which would include many aspects, which I don't want to disclose yet. So because there isn't one that exists yet, but I'm super excited for it. I just can't wait to be able to share that, because I noticed like during COVID, with my own mental well-being, like that was a very stressful time. I had to do remote learning with my kids at home and at school. And I had to work, and I'm getting calls from the school. Why aren't your kids doing their classes? I'm like, well, you gave them a tablet to do their homework on, and they would rather play games. And I'm not home to supervise because I have to hold my job. And then with all 5 of my kids being stuck in a house because there's no place to go, it really put a lot of tension and stress on the family in general, just being at close and quartered. And then I'm gone because I have to work. And then I'm having to work extra because half my staff's in quarantine and I still have to try to run the operations. So there was a lot of stress there. And I realized that sometimes, there's a lot of stress. Like managers tend to get stressed. It can be very stressful, especially when you're getting thrown like shortages and like the whole pandemic. It was a hard hit for a lot of industries. And I was like, man, I want to go on this vacation just to get away and it's quiet. So like, I just want to go where there's no noise because I needed that. I knew I needed to reground myself, and grounding yourself is so important because you don't want to just, think of your energy as a bank. If you're constantly putting it out and you're not taking time to refill some of that energy from the earth in itself, even the sunlight, man, the sunlight will give you so much energy. And um, so you want to just take that in and open up that energy channel back to yourself. If you don't, it's going to deplete you. And so when I saw that need, I was like, oh, I just want that. Like and it was in the wintertime too, and it snows here. And I hate the snow. I hate the cold. I have to be outside. I love being outside. And so I was like, I just want to go someplace within a couple hour drive at most, and be able to just go sit outside in the sunlight somewhere and, and get my feel good, because I know that gives me that energy. And I just know I keep track of like when I'm burning out. So you have to be careful. Don't overdo it. Balance it.
Yes.
Everything in balance. Your nutrition, your diet, all that stuff to your whole well-being is so important. And just making sure you take care of yourself first. But don't be, a lot of people think it's selfish, and it's not. It's self-care. And your job isn't to demand everything else. Like, you need to take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the only one that has your back 100% of the time, unless you decide not to. So don't do that to yourself. A lot of people do, and just keeping yourself balanced. And it's okay to take a break once in a while, and give yourself a breather. As much as I'd love my house to be immaculate, it's not. I've just made peace with it. My kids broke my OCD. Because when you're just too tired, and they do better at cleaning up after themselves and stuff. But because there's so many, it's harder to hold them accountable because I don't know which one did it. But and then no one wants to own up to it. So, it's just those little battles and whatever. But at the same token, just creating that space and having a place to go, and then parents are overworked and overwhelmed sometimes with parenting is hard, man. You have to be responsible for another person that has their own
Yes.
opinion and agendas, and they like to push your limits. And so giving a place for like overworked employees, and overworked parents, just a place to go and just be, and just relax and do it in an open space, and just do that. And they can bring the kids with, and we'll have a separate space and teach kids mindfulness. I really believe we need to start teaching kids mindfulness in school. Just like a morning warm up for 5-10 minutes, and
Yes.
at the end of the day, like that is so huge. And I wish people underplay it, but it is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself, and just keeping yourself in check, and doing things. If you can take care of yourself, then you can take care of others. There's a quote in the Bible that says, you have to love yourself, or love thy neighbor as you love thyself. If you
Yeah.
can't love thyself, then you can't love and provide for everybody else. And a lot of people get it flip-flops, and that's what holds them back, and they don't realize it. So I try to help them see and help them evolve that and shift that perspective, because that's, if you flip it around, that's when the doors start opening up, because you're going and doing it the right way,
Yes.
and
So
then
before, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, before we wrap it up, so what final piece of advice or message of encouragement would you like to share with everyone who may be facing their own challenges?
Don't give up. Just move forward. You might shift the direction, and you might want to give up. But don't. Like, you just be patient with yourself. Learn how to be patient, and care for yourself. Treat yourself as you would the closest person you have besides yourself. So whether that's your husband or your wife or your spouse, your parents, your children, treat, and if you care for that person, then you should be looking at, are you doing that same kind of care and that self-talk? Be careful of that self-talk, because those little self-talks that are negative are so powerful that it doesn't have to be a big negative thought to really put a damper on that. So just develop your awareness of how you feel and how you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself. because those are all the blockages. It really comes down to yourself. And Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson is my go-to jam. So listen to that, because when I'm in a rut, I know it's because of my own doings. Um, and so just being aware of that is the biggest piece I can say, because like I said, you got to go 7 layers deep. And sometimes we're the problem to our problems.
Pretty
And
much.
if people just realize that, and I mean that with the most love, because it's not saying that people are bad. My kids will take it the wrong way. They're like, oh, so I'm doing bad. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm trying to explain to them, like, and go deep. So I have a lot of practice, teach my kids this. My kids are pretty independent for the most part, and I've raised them that way because I want them to be able to have that. So that is the most powerful thing. And same with the positive talks. I do a lot of pep talks myself, mentally, and visualize your goals. I can't stress that enough, to create that reality, and then take in how it feels when you're in that moment of your visualization of your dreams coming true, because then that's where you resonate that energy. It's all about the energy and your inner energies. And I've been studying this for like 10 plus years. Ever since I got divorced, someone recommended a book called Power versus Force. And that book is what changed my life and reshifted my whole focus. And I try to find myself again, and I'm still working at it. It takes time to undo the 7 years with my toxic husband. But that's fine. As long as I'm moving forward, you just got to move in one direction. Don't stay still unless you're taking a break, but try to aim to do something better. Aim to be 1% better, and then instead of doing a quantum leap, and make the steps, set a path from your goal, work backwards, and then
Yes.
find all the steps that you need to take to get to from where that goal is to where you need to be, and find solutions to each step of the way, and you'll get there. You might make a wrong choice. That's okay. There's a new day. You can get as many restarts as you want, as long as you're still alive. Like, there is no limit. So don't be afraid to make those mistakes and challenges. Just be mindful and understand why you're wanting to do that before you make that leap or whatever.
So now, Crystal, how can someone reach out to you for support and guidance?
There is my website. I would also just reach out to me with Facebook. I feel like that would be a better way to, easier to access and keep track of that. And to reach out, but you can do it anyway through my website. You can email me at crystal@crystalkosnjek.com. And I can get that as well. Or just find me on Facebook, follow me on Facebook, and I can, just do that, because I do post a lot of inspirational things and quotes and stuff to just kind of help that, and surround yourself with that, like-minded people where you want to be too. If you have toxic people, don't hesitate to cut them out. You've got to put yourself first, and you don't have to like cut ties with them completely, but just, distance yourself a little bit. I've done that, many times. I'll distance myself for a couple months because I need to rebound and reground, because I juggle a lot. I have to do that for myself, and take bubble baths and drink wine, but you got to take care of yourself. But that's what they can do is reach out to me on the websites, or Facebook, and I try to communicate or connect that way. So,
Well, thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing your journey with us today, and also for giving your advice and a word of wisdom. Because sometimes we think the world is a happy place and everyone is happy there, but in reality, a lot of people out there are suffering, especially women with children that need the extra help, the extra support, or sometimes they just need a shoulder or someone that tell them, you can do this, you got this, and you're not alone.
right.
And
That
I
does
think
help
that
out a lot, yes.
exactly sharing your story, it's making it a huge difference for just someone to hear that somebody else went through this similar situation and get out of it and doing good.
Right. And choose many, many people to follow. And I think a lot of us do. I know I follow a lot of inspirational people. And don't be afraid of failure, because Elon Musk has failed several times, and so like if he keeps going forward, just keep going. You're the only one that's going to hold yourself back in the end. So, but get support, get help. There's help out there. Just go looking for it. It's okay to say that you need the help, and why you need the help and what help you need, and understanding that, so you know where you're to go and you can get that,
Get that help.
Yep, get the help that you need. There's no shame in that, there is no shame. It's okay to lean on
Absolutely
somebody
not.
for a little bit, and then like I had to lean on the government assistance. I was not proud, and but made it my goal to be self-sufficient and to take care of these kids by myself, and I eventually got off of it. And I put that mindset. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to make enough money to support us all. I mean, it's still tight, especially with the economy, but we still can do fun things too. You just got to find a way to make it work, and you will.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.